Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Viral Hit, Season 1, Episode 11. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're immediately picking up in the aftermath of last episode. Hoban's running for his life as he's getting chased down by the comedy crew, but kind of similar to the Taehoon situation, he puts himself in a more appropriate battle situation because basically because it's like a narrow alleyway, they can't really come at him all at once, so they come at him at once. They can't come at him all at once, so they come one at a time, and he proceeds to use what he's learned so far, get hit without getting hurt situation, but also using his calf kick, which we also cut back to Museong watching this, and the guys that are with him are like, yeah, that kid's got no proper training, so it's going to be like, oh, that little shrimp's kick, it's like shrimp's kick. You know, a shrimp who basically practiced a calf kick for like 10,000 times a month in a single month, and it's like, wait, what? It's like, he did that? It's like, yeah. So he's like, the reason why those guys in the back aren't rushing anymore is because their legs are busted up. Their legs are in so much pain, because it's also the thing of, and this kind of becomes a recurring thing for Hoban, he never realizes how strong he is. I love it. It's literally a line of dialogue later on of like, I didn't realize how strong I've gotten because I'm always going up against monsters. So this is like, it's like the power scaling went up with Taehoon, but now it's kind of dropped back down with the comedy crew, because they might have a little training on to some extent, at least like the main dude does, but it's not enough. They're still like lower tier people in comparison to the last opponent he went up against. You know, they're probably nothing compared to Paco either. So they're who knows, they're a notch below Paco when it comes to power and stuff. So they can't handle how powerful his calf kick is. So that's something they can't contend with, because they're even more amateurs than Hoban is after his fight. So they won't even come after him. But even Museong's thinking it's interesting. Like, well, the main dude hasn't gotten kicked yet, so why is he stopping? And then we get introduced to our boy Logan Gracie, and I do love that he says it in English. Because if you are unaware, he says it in English specifically because Logan is he is American, isn't he? Yeah, I feel stupid, but it's like, yeah, he is an American. And then we find out later on he's like a pretty big deal. Like, what was it? Middleweight, light heavyweight, and just straight up heavyweight champion all across like all three, I believe. He's a beast, and we find out later on he's like Museong's teacher. He's the one that took Museong and just kind of randomly came across him and was like, yo, you got a talent, kid, and he's been his coach ever since. But he's the one that kind of points out, like, hey, like, Museong's like, I don't get why the guy's not going forward. But Logan's like, yeah, because the intimidation. To them, it's like a giant gorilla's right in front of them. And then Gao also gave them the perfect excuse when she showed up, like, doing the chokehold on that girl. And it's like, yeah, we got a hostage. And they found, because Home Dude was scared, but none of them were willing to admit that they were scared to fight Hoban and how messed up they were. So they just played it off like, oh, they got a hostage. Oh, I guess we just have to leave this. And she's like, yo, she hit me. Are none of you going to do anything about it? No one's like, shut up and just keep moving. And so Gao and Snapper are happy because they're like, yes, this situation got resolved. That could have gotten ugly. And the voiceover says it's like, right, something unlocked in Hoban. Something he had never felt until now. He felt like fighting. He started to enjoy it, and they kind of talk about it, the adrenaline kicking in, because Hoban's always been on his back foot. Like, even the Paco thing, that was him kind of retaliating because he wanted his revenge and also wanted to, you know, he's never actively enjoyed fighting. It's always been like a necessity. It's just survival. And even Taehoon was kind of in that same boat as well. He will go out of his way to fight sometimes if need be when the circumstances arise, but it's typically like he's always on his back foot when it comes to fighting. Like, actually enjoying it is a whole other thing that he's never experienced before. And he starts going like, holy crap, I might legitimately be losing my damn mind if I'm starting to enjoy this shit. So obviously the comedy crew is done. They had to shut down their channel because even with their apology, the backlash was just too much and they never properly recovered. I also misinterpreted Gal's words last episode when she was watching their video. She was like, "Oh, this editing." I thought she picked up something at the time, but like looking at, she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna add stars to titles." And I was like, "Oh, right, that's what she picked up from them, was like this editing." So she adopted some of their editing style and added it to how she edits the viral hit stuff. Once again, I love the entire audience still being like, "Yo, oh, is that the editor's voice? Like, let's see her, show her, put her on camera," you know. But yeah, and you just see the comedy crew just walking away in shame in the aftermath of everything. So for now, everything's quieted down. Viral Hits got a pretty successful video after taking down the comedy crew. But we pick up with Boomy walking home, and lo and behold, who does she run into? None other than Mangi. I pronounced it Mangi. I guess it almost be the same thing as like manga or manga. I know there are some people who say manga. I've always said manga. Either way, but it's like, in my head his name is Mangi, but I guess based on the Japanese dub, it sounds like they say Mangi. So either way, Mangi, we find out a little bit more about him. Like, obviously he's a little weird and a little creepo when it comes to Boomy. He wants to get close to her, but then Museong shows up, and then Museong starts pulling a Hoban and starts utilizing the techniques that Hoban learned from Samdak of like, rubbing Mangi's boobs, just to kind of like catch him off guard. And obviously, Museong's really good at what he does, but the problem is Mangi's a beast. Like, he's not like a wrestling champion for nothing. He is extremely powerful. And I mean, luckily, Museong is very skilled, so he was able to kind of easily escape like Mangi's attack. And who knows how that would have gone. It definitely would have gone to Museong because he is the more experienced straight up fighter, so he would have known what to do. But Mangi's upset. Like, his motivation, like, each one comes into this with different motivation. Museong is like, "Yo, I'm looking out for my friend Boomy." Mangi, one, the thing he likes more than wrestling, as it says, is girls, but he's so misunderstood, girls run away from him. But also, the thing he hates more than anything is cool guys, and he sees Museong as like a cool, handsome guy. He's like, "I hate the handsome types." And then here comes a fellow loser in training himself, Hoban, who was coming to find Boomy because he knew, like, right, you're walking alone, I don't want you to do that, you could be in danger. And he comes screaming because he's like, oh, she wasn't replying, and he immediately gets grappled by Mangi and slammed to the ground and lost. Which, we didn't get to see it, but Museong was the one that was able to kind of resolve that situation. But Hoban's spirit was kind of broken in the aftermath of it, because very much like the Paco thing, it's like, because he was starting to feel himself, because he's like, yo, I'm gotten better, I'm feeling good, but now it's like, oh, not only I got wrecked in front of Boomy again, and he started like feeling really bad about it, but now you have Snapper and Gao telling him, do not fight this dude, he's a monster, it doesn't benefit us. Besides, it wasn't on stream, no one caught it, so we could just pretend like it didn't happen, until you have Mangi he didn't stream it, he just put out, I think, a photo of him. I don't know if he like streamed the aftermath of the fight or whether he ended up just posting a photo, because it looked like it was just a static photo, but it could have just been a photo from him starting a stream after knocking out Hoban. And now they had to put out a video basically explaining everything, because even Gal was like, do we really? Because she was like, oh, I'm going to go through this, deleting all comments, because all these comments were saying like, oh, how lame, he lost, yada, yada, yada. So she was deleting those comments, which that could be a tricky territory in itself, but that didn't really, something they didn't really cover in this episode. Like, that could give you backlash, or like, oh, you're getting rid of only negative comments. Like, people will notice stuff like that. But luckily, Snapper was able to, because he was like, normally I'd be the first one to tell you to fight, because the whole thing was like, right now you didn't have to fight him because no one knew about the fight, so it didn't matter. Now people do, and this is going to turn our audience against us. But no, I'm gonna handle things because you cannot. This will be the one time I tell you, do not fight this dude. Do not fight him for anything or any reason. Any other opportunity, Snapper's like, yo, jump at this opportunity. But it's like, yeah, this guy's on a whole other level, so Snapper makes an apology, which, sways their audience more to their side. Even Boomy's like, don't fight him. She's like, I don't want you to get hurt. And for him, it's that thing of like, right, like, I'm more scared than Boomy again. But then he starts thinking about it more and more. It's like, am I really so upset? Because he starts feeling a tightness in his chest he couldn't explain. It goes back to him liking fighting now. It's like, it's not even about Boomy anymore. It's like, I I like that feeling, the adrenaline. People get addicted to it, adrenaline junkies. And so he's starting to realize, like, I'm addicted to the adrenaline, the feeling of fighting. I like it now. And, like, my pride is kind of on the line. Like, this isn't even just about Boomy anymore. Still some level of it is about that, but it's more like, no, I want to do this for me. My pride was kind of hurt, where it's like, oh, I kind of lost, but I like that feeling, so I'm ready to kind of scrap. Tries to watch one of Samdak's videos. First and foremost, he was just going through YouTube and he came across someone who's like, trying to do like eating like some spicy food challenge. Didn't work out for her. And then came across Samdak's video being like, yo, an amateur beating a grappler. There's kind of nothing for that. Because it's like, right, just because there's a technique for a striker doesn't necessarily mean that a striker is worse off than a grappler, but it's just, there is no way you can beat a grappler as an amateur. There's just no way. So that's why I'm making this video to tell you can't. And Hoban scrolled through it. He couldn't find anything. So he kind of thought, like, is this really it? Is this really over? And I love that whole snapper thing. I don't remember that bit from the webtoon. I also didn't remember the Museong and Mungi thing. Mungi and Hoban, sure, but I didn't. I'm sure that first encounter, because I do, like I said, I remember him losing the first time. Obviously, like, he loses to most of his opponents the first time because you don't know their deal. You haven't watched a Samdak video. You have to understand them. Like, okay, what's their style, and then go to the respective Samdak video to be like, okay, like, how do you handle this? But I just didn't remember the Museong of it. I remember him getting slammed and knocked out the first time, but I didn't remember the Museong angle to it. But I love that bit where Snapper was on his scooter and he was on the phone and some lady was like, yo, you can't do that, that's illegal. And even like a subtitle pops up like, yeah, don't do that, don't be on your scooter and on the phone. And you can still hear the lady screaming in the background, hey, you dude on the like scooter. It's like, I love that random big. I'm like, I mean, it's such a small thing. It could have been in a webtoon, but I feel like I don't remember that at all. Because at first when he was driving by, I was like, is that Gal? But it's like, no, it's just someone who looks a little similar to her character model. But yeah, like, while Snapper's on his way to go hang out with Hoban, because he's like, yo, what was it? Oh, what was he labeled in Snapper's phone? The only person in the world, like, the only person I trust in the world, or something like that. I'm like, that's so interesting. Why don't you just have his freaking name? Why is that? Why you have it? I'm so unnecessary. But Hoban, like, bicycling, he's streaming right now, making his way to Mongi, and proceeds to challenge Mongi to a fight, starting off the fight with, right, you gotta piss off your opponent. And I love it calling, like, man, Mangi, like, just doing all that. And I love that the comments are like, why do they keep groping him? It's like, oh, maybe Mangi likes it. It's like, there's no way he likes it, So it's like, oh, is this really happening? Is this about to pop off? And it is, which Mangi's still also comments on, why does everyone want to, like, touch me and stuff like that? So, but we also figure out something that none of the others know, and that is the fact that it's our boy Hoban, because at the same time this is all going down, Taehoon is watching it being like, oh, I don't think you're going to win this time. But you did kind of surprise me, Hoban, because Hoban stopped by and goes to Taehoon and it's like, I want to learn the back kick. Which the moment he came with the backpack, you knew what time it was, because he knew what time it was. He's like, oh, Taehoon's like, didn't I tell you the next time I see you? And hits him with the full force of a back. I mean, who knows if that was full force, but it was definitely stronger than his last one, which even Hoban's like, wow, that means he really was holding back. To be fair, he was at a disadvantaged situation because he wasn't, for one, using his dominant leg, plus all the, like, slippery terrain and stuff like that didn't, like, so there was a lot against him in that moment. But despite everything, Hoban's like, right, teach me the back kick. It's like, why would I do that? He's like, oh, bring Snapper out. I know he's it's like, no, this isn't about Snapper. This isn't being streamed. I want to know your technique, because amongst everyone I've fought so far, Taekwondo is the strongest. And in that moment, it strikes a chord with Taehoon, because all he wants to do is prove that Taekwondo is the strongest. That, he stakes his own pride on it. So it's like, right, so did training go well? Does Hoban have something in his back pocket? We'll ultimately have to wait to see where this, I'm going ahead speaking out of my ass again, what appears to maybe be the season finale. I don't know, not unless they're going to be like, actually there's more episodes, because they keep doing it. They sprung it on me past episode 8, And now I'm like, I don't know. It feels like, because it feels like this might be the great spot to stop the season 2, because this is where we get to the point where it's like, I don't even know if you consider this like the halfway point of the season. I don't remember. But like the next chunk of the season is like one massive arc. There's multiple arcs to it, but like the next overarching story is basically the last chunk, is the back chunk of the first season of the webtoon. So that's why I'm like, that storyline is massive, and that's a whole season in itself. So that's why I feel like this would be the perfect spot, because I feel like the Mungi stuff like leads directly into that, if I remember correctly. So I feel like they probably tee that up and tease it at the end, if the next episode is in fact the season finale. Even if it isn't, and there somehow is more episodes beyond this, I still do believe they would probably tease up the stuff after. We'll have to see how they wrap it up, or whether they'll really tease anything, just kind of leave things as there. If you've never read the webtoon, I'll go ahead and just say, the Mungi stuff doesn't end the way you think it does. You know, you think like, oh, he's just going to come out victorious. Because like, they also showed you like, it's kind of like, that's what, like, they kind of showcase Mungi in a very different light than every other person he went up against. Whether it's Paco, whether it's Taehoon, whether it's the comedy crew. Like, they've all been presented as like, man, they're massive dicks. Once again, we saw with Taehoon, yeah, he presents like a dick, but there's a little bit more to him. Mungi seems that way as well. So we see like, oh, he's in love with girls, but they don't feel the same way about him. Also, he hates handsome guys because it's like, yeah, they have such good dating lives and experience, but everything that I lack, which, hey, it's like him and Hoban are in the same boat in a lot of ways. So either way, it's going to be interesting to see whether next episode is a season finale or not. I feel strongly that it is, but most likely I'm going to have to eat my words when it's revealed that it's not. But I'm excited to see how it all ends. And like I said, let's see where what they kind of tee up and tease. Because like I said, I do believe the next story point is like what ends up being kind of the crux of all of Viral Hit's story going forward. Like this next thing that's kind of like the back chunk of the last, I don't know, this might be the last 2/3, maybe last half, I don't know, of Viral Hit Season 1 revolves around this storyline, and this said storyline like continues and spirals off and becomes like the remaining storyline for the rest of the series into Season 2, like including Season 2 storyline. It revolves around what kind of gets set up soon, so we'll have to wait to see how it all plays out anime-wise, but I'm excited to see what happens. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.